Late one night in April 2018, a quiet West Baltimore home erupts in gunfire. Inside, a mother and her teenage daughter scream as a hitman opens fire, their lives brutally snuffed out. Across town, a year later, a young woman pushes her baby in a stroller on a summer evening until a shot rings out and she collapses on the sidewalk.
Federal agents make big moves in Baltimore City to get criminals off the streets.
This Al Capone model of prosecution is designed to take violent people off the streets by any appropriate legal means necessary.
These horrific scenes, seemingly unrelated, would later be revealed as pieces of a dark puzzle. A federal indictment tied them together, pointing to an unlikely mastermind, a rising local rap star named YGG Tay. In a city long plagued by gang violence, the case of YGG Tay would expose an alleged web of murder plots, drug dealing, and retribution that reads like the script of a gangland drama, except this is no movie. In December 2022, federal agents unsealed an indictment that sent shockwaves through Baltimore streets. 6 men were charged with conspiring to run a violent criminal enterprise, a racketeering conspiracy that prosecutors say included murder for hire, drug trafficking, armed robbery, and witness intimidation. At the center of it, 28-year-old Davante Harrison, aka YGG Tay, a Baltimore rapper with a local hitmaker reputation. The indictment accuses Harrison of being not just a participant, but an orchestrator of deadly schemes, even as he was already behind bars, serving a 15-year federal sentence for drugs and guns. The document painted a grim picture. 6 murders, 11 shootings, and multiple attempted murders and robberies were laid at the feet of this crew. These weren't random acts of violence, prosecutors say. They were calculated moves in a deadly game of power and revenge on the streets of Baltimore. It was a tale of gangland ambition and betrayal. While calling himself a rap artist in the spotlight, the indictment named 6 alleged conspirators, a rose gallery of nicknames and reputations. Davante Harrison, aka YGG Tay, the rapper accused of bankrolling and ordering murders allegedly to protect his drug operation and silence enemies. David Warren, aka Michonne, a notorious hitman said to be YGG Tay's contracted killer for hire. Warren earned infamy after beating 10 attempted murder charges as a young man and was known on the street as one of the city's most fearsome triggermen. Barrick Olds, 33, an alleged gang enforcer accused of carrying out a cold-blooded hit on an innocent mother who broke gang rules. Wayne Prince, aka Taz, 23, a younger foot soldier who, prosecutors say, helped attempt a hit that left an innocent bystander dead. Joshua Duffy, aka Josh, an accused member of the crew, tied into the gang's drug dealing and violence, his exact role emerging as the case unfolds. Tyrell Jeffries, aka White Bread, another veteran associate of the organization, allegedly involved in the gang's street operations and conspiracies. Together, these 6 men are accused of being key players in a criminal organization linked to the Black Guerrilla family, or BGF, a gang authorities call the most singular threat to public safety in Baltimore for a decade or longer. To understand the depth of this case, one must delve into the world of BGF and the violent code that governed their action. The Black Guerrilla family, known on the streets as Jama, is not just any gang. It's a nationwide syndicate born in California's prisons and embedded in Baltimore's underbelly since the 1900s. BGF operates with military-like structure. In Baltimore, its members organize into regional regimes, each overseen by a hierarchy called the Bubble. They have a strict code of conduct: no snitching, no stealing from the gang, no breaking secrets, and never running from combat, among other rules. The penalty for disobedience is severe: fines, beatings, even death at the hands of fellow members. In this world, reputation is everything, and cooperation with law enforcement is the deadliest sin. YGG Tay, despite his music fame, was no stranger to this world. In fact, Harrison's ties to gangs run deep. Nearly a decade ago, he allegedly teamed up with a BGF contact to supply heroin and cocaine to the city's street-level drug shops. By 2014, Harrison had aligned with a violent West Baltimore crew called TTG, Trained to Go, an offshoot of BGF known for ruthlessness. Young Go-Getters, the very origin of YGG Tay's name, was a group that assisted the TTG gang's activities, providing money, drugs, and firepower to enforce their reign. Federal agents would later allege that Harrison was one of the drug suppliers bankrolling TTG's drug operation, essentially financing gang violence with his trafficking profits. The alliance paid off in blood and cash under the BGF/TTG umbrella. Harrison's operation thrived, but so did his list of enemies. As his influence grew in the underworld, so did the danger. By his mid-20s, Harrison wasn't just funding the gangs. Prosecutors say he was ordering hits. The stage was set for a deadly escalation, one that would blur the line between his rap lyrics and real life. The federal indictment reveals a timeline of violence spanning 8 years. It reads like a sinister ledger of debts settled with bullets. Baltimore, June 29th, 2014, night. Under the dim glow of a street lamp on Ward Street, a lone figure approaches a 21-year-old man named Terrell Jarrett. Jarrett had fallen into debt over drug deals gone bad. He owed YGG Tay money for narcotics, authorities say. The hitman raises a .357 handgun. A flash. A thunderclap. Jarrett is shot dead on the spot. According to prosecutors, YGG Tay paid $10,000, 0 cents cash, and handed over a gun to a BGF assassin for that murder. It was revenge for a drug debt. A stark message that nobody crosses Harrison without paying the ultimate price. This was the first murder linked to the conspiracy, a targeted killing for business. And it would not be the last. Fast forward to 2018. Harrison is now an established drug supplier, and his name has been dragged into street gossip, accusing him of the unthinkable, being a snitch. 2 individuals had publicly accused YGG Tay of cooperating with police, tarnishing his underworld credibility. Another man, a fellow BGF member, had once burglarized Harrison's home back in 2013. These were unforgivable transgressions in the eyes of a gang boss. Harrison wanted revenge, and he knew exactly whom to call: David Warren. At 30, he was already a near legend in Baltimore's violent underground. A hitman reputed to have beaten nearly a dozen attempted murder charges since his teenage years. That hardened and elusive, Warren was known as the top shooter in the city. Harrison saw in him the perfect instrument for vengeance. In early 2018, Harrison allegedly hired Warren as his personal hitman, a contract killer on the payroll of YGG Tay's operation. Harrison was brazen about it too. In a boastful Instagram post, he bragged that he had just signed the top shooter in the city to a deal. To his followers, it sounded like flashy bravado, but investigators say this was literal. The rapper had signed a hitman, as if adding a member to his crew, turning Warren loose on his enemies. On April 4th, 2018, Warren struck at the home of Harrison's accuser, but the man he wanted dead wasn't there that night. Instead, Warren found the target's family, a mother and her adult daughter, home relaxing for the evening. In a ruthless act that would horrify the city, the hitman opened fire on the defenseless women, killing them both. The daughter died alongside her mother in a barrage of .357 caliber bullets, an act of pure reprisal meant to send a chilling message. In the aftermath, as sirens wailed through the neighborhood, Warren disappeared into the darkness. Later, investigators say he left a cryptic message for Harrison, a note that read, "Waiting on the bag." He was waiting to get paid for the murders. And pay him Harrison did. Prosecutors say YGG Tay rewarded Warren for executing the woman and her daughter. The crime was as heinous as it was cold-blooded, striking terror into anyone who knew the backstory. Harrison, paranoid about retaliation for this atrocity, allegedly told his own girlfriend to start looking for houses in faraway Atlanta and warned the mother of his child to lie low in a hotel. Even he knew that killing a man's family had lit a dangerous fuse. In August 2018, Warren teamed with Wayne Prince, aka Taz, one of Harrison's younger associates, to go after the second rival. They tracked the man to a property he owned where construction workers were busy with repairs. Under the midday sun, gunmen opened fire in a brazen attack. The rival survived. He wasn't even hit, but 2 unsuspecting construction workers were caught in the crossfire. One worker was shot and wounded. The other, an innocent 37-year-old laborer, was killed on the scene. Their day's work turned into tragedy for men who had nothing to do with gang wars. The intended target had escaped, but the message was sent. No one was safe, not even bystanders. The indictment suggests that Warren also plotted to eliminate the former friend turned burglar who had violated Harrison's trust. Whether Warren succeeded or merely attempted in that case is unclear, but the intent was deadly. Harrison's vendettas were being systematically addressed with gunfire and bloodshed. By the end of 2018, Harrison's private war had left a trail of bodies and broken lives. 3 people lay dead at his behest: the drug debt victim, the mother and daughter, the construction worker, and others were injured or terrorized. Yet the violence did not stop there. Harrison's crew, as part of BGF, also carried out business for the gang independent of his personal revenge list. On July 3, 2019, according to prosecutors, Barack Oles approached this 25-year-old mother as she pushed her baby's stroller down the block. Oles was enforcing the gang's rules. The woman had been doing business, likely selling drugs independently on that block without the gang's permission. The punishment was death. In a shocking act of dominance, Oles shot and killed the young mother in broad daylight. Her infant miraculously was unharmed physically, but an entire community was traumatized. This murder, utterly senseless to the outside world, was a grim example of the iron grip BGF held over Baltimore neighborhoods. Violate their turf rules, and the consequences were fatal. Each violent incident seemed isolated at first. A drug dispute here, a retaliation hit there, a random killing on a street corner. But the federal investigators working the case began to piece it together. Through 2020 and 2021, a pattern emerged linking these crimes back to one enterprise. It was like connecting dots on a bloody map of the city. At the center, they kept finding the names YGG Tay and his associates. Surveillance, informants, and forensic evidence slowly wove a tapestry of conspiracy that would culminate in the sweeping indictment. Building a federal case against gang members is painstaking work. Behind the scenes, law enforcement deployed every tool in their arsenal to unravel YGG Tay's alleged criminal network. This meant undercover surveillance, wiretaps on phones, analysis of social media, and crucially, ballistics forensics. At crime scenes from West Baltimore to the county line, technicians recovered spent shell casings, silent witnesses to the shootings. Using NIBN, the National Ballistics Database, agents matched shell casings and bullets from different crime scenes, linking shootings that had once seemed unrelated. The same guns were popping up at multiple scenes, indicating a common crew behind the trigger. The murder of the mother and daughter, the shots at the construction site, the Ward Street killing. Forensic ballistics helped connect the dots, each match tightening the noose around the conspirators. Meanwhile, federal and local agents leaned on the streets for information. They flipped lower-level gang members into cooperators and intercepted communications. Investigators listened in on jailhouse calls and monitored text messages, hunting for any incriminating slip. Harrison, however, was cautious. By 2019, the FBI had been surveilling him for years, yet he was adept at covering his tracks. He spoke in code, used counter-surveillance tactics, and trusted only a tight inner circle. But even the careful make mistakes. Agents also scoured social media and music videos for clues. Harrison's public persona as YGG Tay wasn't exactly shy about flaunting wealth that far outstripped a musician's income. In one music video titled Air Day, Every Day, YGG Tay rapped about getting money daily, surrounded by luxury cars and cash. Federal documents later revealed that agents cited this video as evidence suggesting that his lavish lifestyle was funded by drug money. His lyrics and imagery, they argued, weren't just entertainment, they were braggadocio rooted in real crimes. Using art as evidence is controversial, but in this case the feds had far more. They had phone records, surveillance footage, and even Harrison's own words. After the April 2018 double homicide, investigators learned Harrison told his girlfriend to find property in Atlanta and urged family to hide out, actions that spoke to a guilty mind aware of looming retaliation. And when David Warren was finally arrested, he came with a trove of knowledge. Perhaps facing the weight of evidence, the hitman began to talk, or at least the records of his gruesome work did. The note reading, "Waiting on the bag," was recovered, a smoking gun linking Warren's hit to Harrison's payout. By late 2022, the investigators had assembled a comprehensive picture of the gang's operation. They tied shooting to the crew, drugs to the profits, and motives to the murders. It was enough to convince a grand jury to indict all 6 suspects under RICO, the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, treating the disparate crimes as part of one organized criminal enterprise. The most recent federal indictment against YGG Tay was set in motion, promising to expose the bloody reach of his empire. The story of YGG Tay is not just one of crime, it's also a story of image and identity. On one hand, there was Davante Harrison, the alleged gangland boss. On the other, YGG Tay, the rapper, who by his late 20s had become one of the best known rappers in the city with music videos racking up millions of views on YouTube. It's a Jekyll and Hyde portrait that has captivated Baltimore. How could someone with a promising music career also be orchestrating murders? In his lyrics and videos, YGG Tay portrayed himself as a hustler from the streets, flashy, fearless, and trained to go at any moment. His songs referenced guns, money, and the code of the streets. To his fans, this was part of the persona, the allure of authentic Baltimore hip-hop. But prosecutors allege it wasn't just an act. Harrison was living the life he rapped about, quite literally. He wasn't exaggerating for clout. If anything, the indictment suggests the truth was even darker than the art. The dichotomy is stark. By 2019, Harrison had a recording career taking off. Yet he was also under federal investigation. In November of that year, DEA agents raided a stash house tied to him and found large quantities of drugs and a Glock handgun with an extended magazine. That bust led to his initial arrest and conviction. He pleaded guilty at trial and received a 15-year sentence for drug and gun charges. To the public, it seemed like a young artist derailed by a drug case. Little did anyone know that far worse allegations were on the horizon. Harrison himself maintained an air of defiance. From prison, he posted on social media, hinting that he would appeal and claiming his name would be cleared. To his supporters, he was a target of government overreach, maybe even a scapegoat, a product of an environment where many rappers posture with gang imagery without actual crimes. But the sheer detail in the indictment, naming victims, dates, payments, and triggermen, was damning. It suggested that Harrison's rap lies might have been no cap at all. As one astounded commenter online put it, Tay really wasn't just rap capping. The realization in the community was that the tales in his songs of gunplay and retribution were not fiction, they were allegedly autobiography. The case also reignited debate over the use of rap lyrics as evidence. Fans and artists in Baltimore worried if YGG Tay's music could be used against him, what about others who rap about violent lives they didn't lead? But prosecutors countered that this case was different. It wasn't art on trial, but explicit actions, corroborated by physical evidence and accomplice testimony. Harrison's own Instagram brag about signing a hitman was a self-inflicted wound to his defense. It blurred any line between performance and reality. He had effectively documented his alleged crimes in real time on social media. As YGG Tay's tracks continued to stream online, the man behind them sat in a jail cell, facing the prospect of never making music as a free man again. The persona he cultivated in the booth, the kingpin, the shot caller, the untouchable, young go-getter, had seemingly come to life, and now that life was collapsing under the weight of federal charges. When news of YGG Tay's federal indictment broke, Baltimore's community was rocked. This was a city that had lost many young men to violence, either as victims or perpetrators, but the image of a well-known rapper orchestrating carnage was almost surreal. Local news channels led with the story for days, detailing the brazen murder plots and the takedown of an alleged gang conspiracy. On the evening news, anchors spoke of the indictment in grave tones, while the mugshots of Harrison and his co-defendants filled the screen. Neighborhood residents watched, some in shock, others grimly nodding as if to say, "We suspected as much."
Robberies like the one at Horseshoe a couple weeks ago has gotten the attention of federal agents, and tomorrow the FBI will join the BPD to hold a briefing on the surge right here in Baltimore.
Feds are also cracking down on gang activity in the city. A Baltimore man who gained notoriety after beating nearly a dozen attempted murder charges has been named in a federal indictment that targets one of the most dangerous gangs in the city.
Alexa Asheville has details on the crimes he's accused of committing and the message leaders are hoping to send.
This indictment names 6 people allegedly associated with the Black Guerrilla Family gang. One of them, David Warren, in this described as a contract killer.
This newly unsealed federal indictment charging 6 men associated with the notorious Black Guerrilla Family gang includes Baltimore rapper YGG Tay, or Davante Harrison, and David Warren, who gained notoriety after beating nearly a dozen attempted murder charges beginning at the age of 14.
I pull up, I hop out, I put this to test. I'm going for headshots.
David Warren has quite a reputation.
Back in 2020, Warren was the focus of a Crime and Justice report. Then a father,
when he died, part of me died with him,
opened up about the murder of his son, Brian McKemmy, back in 2018, an innocent construction worker caught in the crossfire of what investigators said was an ordered hit on a member of a rival organization.
My son was on the back porch putting aluminum trim around a sliding glass door. These two guys start shooting at the house. The owner of the house is in the house shooting back. My son's hit 3 times and died right on that porch.
Warren was later arrested after investigators say he was found to be in possession of the gun that killed McKemmy. But no one has been charged with his murder until now.
On social media and forums, the reaction was intense. Threads on Reddit lit up with hundreds of comments as the details emerged. In one popular Baltimore forum, users dissected the indictment line by line. This is like a Netflix show come to life, one commenter wrote, astonished at how expansive the conspiracy was. Another commented, with a mix of awe and disgust, that YGG Tay was living his raps. Ain't no fiction in those lyrics. The local hip-hop community, meanwhile, expressed sadness. Another hometown artist now fallen. Some fans lamented that talent had been wasted, that Tay could have been putting Baltimore on the map for music, not crime. Others were less sympathetic, saying the streets had been whispering rumors of Tay's violent exploits for years. The streets always knew, an older caller told a radio show, you don't get a name like YGG Tay without earning it out there. The divide in public opinion was clear. Folk hero to some, villain to others, and a cautionary tale to all. Families of the victims quietly hope for justice. For the relatives of the slain mother and daughter, the indictment brought a mix of grief and relief. Grief at revisiting the horror of that night, relief that the killers might finally face punishment. In East Baltimore, residents of North Rose Street remembered the young mother with the stroller. A small memorial of flowers had long since wilted, but people spoke her name again, angry that a gang's permission rule led to her death. If the charges were true, then perhaps the indictment was a step toward healing, a sign that even the most untouchable figures could be held accountable. As of today, the legal battle continues. All 6 defendants face the possibility of life in prison if convicted on a racketeering and murder charges. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but they are turning. In a surprising development, the alleged hitman David Warren struck a deal. He pleaded guilty to his role and was sentenced to 38 years in federal prison. That Warren, once the feared triggerman of Baltimore's east side, will not walk free until he's an old man. In mid-2024, facing insurmountable evidence, Harrison himself accepted a plea agreement. He admitted involvement in BGF's drug conspiracy and to order at least one murder. A judge handed down a 25-year prison sentence, on top of the 15 years he was already serving. For the now 30-year-old rapper, it means he will spend the bulk of his life behind bars, his hopes of a musical comeback extinguished by the clang of a prison door. But that'll be about it for this video. Make sure you like or dislike, comment, and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments what y'all want to see next. And as always, stay blessed and stay well. Yeah, I'm out.